Now I request Professor Negi to give his deliberation. Professor Negi.
It is very great pleasure to introduce Professor Wangchuk Dorje Negi sir. He is my ideal professor at my university. Whenever I need, he helped me a lot. The Professor Negi is a senior professor in Mool Shastra. He heads the department and he is the dean of that faculty. He is not just a great Buddhist philosopher, but also a very great Pali scholar who has done a comparative and extensive study in Pali and Tibetan text. His Dhammapad and many other books, we all know, we have learned it, and we are here. So, to a very great scholar, and we are eager to listen, sir. We are blessed that you are with us, and thank you so much for coming here. And please proceed your talk, sir.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. At the outset, I would like to extend my warm greeting to all the Bhikkhu and Bhikshuni Sangha members and the chairperson of this first technical session, Professor Panji, and all the distinguished speakers and all the participants. It is my immense pleasure to be part of this program this afternoon, and I am delighted to share some of my thoughts on the topic Buddha and gender equality in the light of significance of the revival of the Bhikkhuni Sangha, for which I have prepared very short paper. So I would like to go through it and present it to the gathering, August gathering. First of all, I would like to thank Venerable Bhikshu Shivaliji Thero, the President of Mahabodhi Society of India, all the other members of the organizing committee, and especially to the Professor Vimalendra Kumarji for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on the importance of revival of the Bhikkhuni Sangha on this special occasion, 25th anniversary of revival of the Bhikkhuni Sangha in the Theravada Buddhist tradition. In fact, 25 years ago, from today, in the year 1996, at the very holy sites of the Rishi Patanmrigta Sarnath Varanasi, Mahabodhi Society of India took the bold initiative to revive within the Theravada tradition the long lost Bhikkhuni Upasambhada tradition for the first time in this modern era. Bhikkhuni from the Mahabodhi Society of India, with the assistance of other bhikshus and Bhikkhuni from Sri Lanka, Korea, etc., made a history when the first group of women from Sri Lanka, led by the late Venerable Dr. Kusuma Theri, received the full ordination of the Bhikkhu Upasambhada within the Theravada tradition from the Royal Sangha for the first time in the land of its origin, after the centuries of its disappearance from India first and later from the Sri Lanka and other countries. Sarnath, as the place of the revival of the Bhikkhuni Upasambhada tradition, has its own profound significance because it is here, Sarnath, where Tathagata Buddha turned the first wheel of Dharma. The turning the wheel of Dharma, the enlightened all kinds of discrimination of the caste, gender, and race. The wheel of Dharma that was turned not only the human, but the goddesses, as well as the sentient beings. The wheel of Dharma that was turned, indeed, for the very purpose of establishing the path of benefit sentient beings. Tathagata Buddha's turning this wheel of the Dharma at Sarnath actually brought forth an unprecedented revolution in the land of India, Aryadesh, and consequently spiritual experience belonging to all classes of the society, caste, race, men and women attain the state of deathless nectar in the form of nirvana are continuously doing so. Thus, Sarnath is certainly the place from where a revolution like the establishment of equality of all classes, castes, races, and gender in the terms of spiritual practice and attainment took off through the Tathagata's Buddha's turning of the wheel of Dharma for the first time. And this is message of Dharma and equality gradually spread across not only throughout the entire country, but across the border throughout Asia. The separate that rightly become known the Buddha as the light of Asia, in the words of Sir Edwin Enrolled. Similar to the revolution brought forth by the Tathagata Buddha during the time of the Buddha, in our times, 25 years ago, today, Mahabodhi Society of India, Sarnath, took this great initiative to restoring the Bhikkhuni Sangha tradition within the Theravada tradition. In fact, the lineage of Bhikkhuni Sangha had been lost for a long time, not only in the Theravada tradition, but also in almost all the other 18 traditions, Nikayas. These 18 Nikayas were the early Buddhist schools which started developing gradually around the time of Second Buddhist Council and by time of King Ashoka. It is believed that all the 18 Nikaya schools were actively alive. According to my observation, during the time of King Ashoka, although all the 18th Nikayas were actively in existence, it was mainly the Theravada tradition on the basis of which the Third Buddhist Council was held under the patronage of the King Ashoka. Thereafter, during the Buddhist Council held in Kundalwan, Kashmir, under the patronage of the King Kanishka, all the 18 Nikayas were recognized as the Buddha's teaching. Until the recent revival of the Bhikkhuni Sangha within Theravada tradition, it was only within the Dhammagupta tradition that the Bhikkhuni Sangha was alive through the unbroken lineage of transmission. And fortunately, in our time, through this unbroken lineage of Bhikkhuni Sangha, we are today able to revive the lineage of Bhikkhuni Sangha transmission within other Buddhist schools as well. Therefore, reviving or making the Bhikkhuni Sangha's tradition alive again within all the existing Buddhist tradition is indeed an important revolutionary step in the making complete the Buddha Sasana. The complete body of the Buddha Sasana is fulfilled further with the harmonious participation of the all fourfold followers of the Buddha, Bhikshu Sangha, Bhikkhuni Sangha, Upasaka, and Upasika, in upholding the Buddha Sasana, because as it is known to all of us here that from the Buddha's own reference to the interaction that he had with the Mara not so long after the Buddha's attainment of the Samma Sambuddha in Bodh Gaya and before the turning of the wheel of Dhamma at Sarnath, the significance and importance of the existence of all fourfold Sangha members, we can clearly see from the dialogue between the Buddha and Mara how the Tathagata had led equal importance to the existence of Bhikkhuni Sangha alongside the Bhikkhu Sangha, Upasak and Upasika. Hence, Mahabodhi Society of India initiated in reviving the Bhikkhuni Sangha tradition within Theravada tradition is in one way re-fulfilling the wish of the Tathagata Buddha and relaying the broken pieces of the foundation stone of the prosperity of Buddha Sasana and harmonious existence of fourfold Sangha members. Therefore, from the bottom of my heart, I express my rejoicing toward this unprecedented huge contribution of the Mahabodhi Society of India as the seed of revival of the Bhikkhuni Sangha within the Theravada tradition, planted in the year 1996 here at Sarnath, is in full bloom today in many countries following the Theravada tradition. This is indeed a matter of great rejoice and sense of fulfillment. I also came to know recently the passing away of the Venerable Dharmakusuma, who, despite several challenges, let the group of Sri Lanka women who received Bhikkhuni Upsampada for the first time in this modern era at this very place of Rishi Patanmrigdava, Saranath. Hence, I would like to pay my heartfelt tribute to the late Venerable Dr. Kusum Theri on this occasion. While today, the total population of world amount to about 7 billion, half of the 3.5 billion is made up of the women. How can the women be deprived of the highest level of ordination in the Buddha Sasana, the Bhikkhuni Upsampada? Generally, when I ponder upon the human nature, I see that comparison to men, women are more inclined towards spirituality because the sense of renunciation or surrendering is greater within women than man. The sense of renunciation and surrendering is the one of the main driving forces and one of the most significant elements in the advancement of the spiritual practice. On the other hand, men are more inclined toward intellectualism and more focused toward the activities involving loss and gain. Whenever I go to place to participate in the Dharma program, the number of women participants are far more than the men most of the time. As women can understand human emotion far better than the men, more women should be encouraged to be a part of the precious Bhikkhuni Sangha. To do so, I think, is the responsibility of the head of the Buddhist community. In any way, say among 3.5 billion world population of the women, how many women can there be in today's time who wish to become an ordination as a bhikkhuni? If those who wish are also stopped from doing so, then I would say that this sort of mentality is very distant from the compassionate intention of the Buddha that he shared the precious Dharma for the benefit of all sentient beings without discrimination of any sort. These are, anyway, my personal thoughts. Today, when we try to dig into the essence of core of the Buddha Dhamma, we find that indeed, as said in the Dhammapada, Sarva Papasya Akaranam, Kushalasya Upsampada, Swachit Prayotpannam, Etang Buddhanam Shasanam. Don't commit any unwholesome actions, perform abundance of the wholesome action, tame your mind completely. This is the Buddha's Sasana, Dhamma. It means to abandon all unwholesome activity, to uphold the moral discipline, to perform wholesome activities, to convert one's mind into wholesomeness is indeed the practice of Shila. To keep one's mind concentrated is the indeed Samadhi, and to genuinely realize the knowledge of Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatma is the Pranja. In fact, Eightfold Noble Path is the path of Nirvana in Buddhism. How can there be objection for the woman to practice this? When there is no difficulty in women to terms of practicing the Eightfold Noble Path, the path of achieve Nirvana, why should there be objection to give Bhikkhuni Upsampada somewhat to women? There should absolutely not to be any objection regarding this from any side of the Buddhist community. Furthermore, in the spiritual point of view, the foundation of the basis of attainment of nirvana is human mind characteristic, alobha. Just as it is said in the Abhidhamma Kosha, alobha Arya Vansha. Non-attachment is the lineage of Arya. Alobha is the nature of human mind, the potential of human mind to develop genuine detachment towards samsara. It is the potential to abandon attachment towards oneself as well as other, and the capacity to practice Shila, Samadhi, and Pranja, the three shikshas of the three higher training, accomplishment which leads unto the attainment of nirvana. If this can be achieved by men as well as women, without any doubt, as we have hundreds of women arhata, great theories, as documented in the Vinaya Pitaka, Theri Gatha, Theri Avdan Shatak, and so on.
Sir, we request you to
Then-
kindly conclude, please.
Yes,
The
in
time
2
is
minutes.
less. Okay, okay,
Yes, in
okay.
2 minutes. Yeah. Their work does not be difficulty come from. When I see the overpouring nature of the rule related to the vow, I see that these rules are not made by the Buddha at one go as rule. They were made in a gradual procession according with the located place and period from time to time, whenever there arose a necessity for the particular rules. I beg your pardon for saying this that in this time and era of 21st century, how many of the rules of bhikkhus are observed sincerely by ourselves? We know it very well. We ourselves sometimes place utmost importance to the sum of the petty rules and not even think of those rules which are actually very important. Pardon me to say this, as I am sure many will not like to hear this, but I am confident that the teacher of Tathagata will not mind hearing this. Therefore, I am talking courage to say this. Tathagata Buddha is the embodiment of Karuna. Hence, if we take any step for the benefit of the great society inspired by compassion, that is in accordance to the Buddha's greatest wish to give equal opportunity to both men and women to be part of Sangha, then I think it will be definitely not be going to against the intention of the Tathagata Buddha. Therefore, it is my request to the chief of the old Buddhist tradition to responsibly take note regarding this matter of the Bhikkhuni Sangha and for the flourishing and harmonious existence the Sangha for upholding the Buddha Sasana. Please grant recognition to the Bhikkhuni Sangha wholeheartedly and encourage women who wish to join the Bhikkhu Sangha to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Negi, for your wonderful talk on Buddha and the gender equality. And you took us back 25 years when the Bhikkhuni Sangha in India was getting revived. I am thankful for this. And I appreciate your appreciation for Mahabodhi Society to doing such a great work. Once again, I thank you for your wonderful talk.